Welcome. You are listening to the Leading Hope podcast. My name is VJ Williams, joined by my friend and pastor, Kevin Jack. Thank you for joining us, taking time out of your day to become a better leader. If you're new to the podcast, we release this every Wednesday. The easiest way to remember every week is hit the subscribe button if you haven't already done that, and you will get this podcast on the platform of your choice. Also, share it with a friend on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram every week. It's awesome to do that. Also, please rate and review on Apple Podcast. A few extra minutes every week goes a long way to help this podcast land in the hands of leaders just like you. And visit leadinghope.online to get updates and find out more about the Leading Hope community. Yes. All right.
Yes.
Today, 89.
89. Hey, let me get the title in a minute.
You want to do it?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So we're kind of jumping in the midst of this. It's kind of a series. We have no idea how long it's going to be on storytelling. And one of the things that's really at the heart of this is as a team, as a church, for me individually, we need to get better. I need to get better at capturing and telling stories. Not just like the individual things that happen, that is part of it, but also this much larger story context of what we're a part of. So what you're gonna see over the next weeks, months, something like that, we'll see until we don't have any more meaningful content on it. Don't worry, we'll stop it before then, is kind of us diving into something that we want to get better at. So if you have questions as you go through this, if you're watching live, we may know the answer. If we make it up, we'll just tell you we're making this up. We really don't have any experience in this. But today is episode 89, and the title of the episode for today is Think Narrative. Think Narrative. And here's the basic idea that I want us to be able to get into, is that we naturally hear things in terms of a story structure, but we do not speak things in terms of a story structure. And anytime that we're doing that, we are going against the way people understand best and people are motivated most easily. So if I could say it like this, the most recent movie that you watched, for most people, I understand there's a small segment of the population that watch movies or book, however you learn best, like the most recent long-form story that you engaged in. My guess is that you could go to a random person and tell them with pretty accurate detail all of the significant events that happened within that storyline and structure. And yet we can all remember times in which we stayed up late studying for a test, trying to cram fact after fact after fact in our head, and nothing was sticking. And the point is this: we naturally learn, we naturally act based upon a story structure, but we do not speak, we do not try to understand for ourselves based upon that structure. So when you think narrative, what you're doing is you're putting the information in a context that people can understand, and you are doing it in a way that is naturally most motivating to them. So this is what we're going to do in this episode, is I just want to take you through a couple pieces, context, key principles on this. They're going to seem a little haphazard, okay? They're going to seem a little all over the place. And then we're going to bring in a special guest.
Yes, we are.
We're going to play some games. We're going to have fun with this to help you see how
games.
this is.
Now I'm really excited.
Well, it's always a game.
Okay. Very good.
So when I say think narrative, I mean that the key elements are narrative are present, okay? Key elements are present in a narrative. Key elements are a protagonist, a person or a group who is the main character. There is a desire of that protagonist. I've heard it said like this: a character who wants something. This is their goal, their finish line. The focus is on what do they specifically want. So a protagonist who has a desire, who encounters an obstacle, a tension, a hurdle, something that is holding them back. And then here is the key thing. In a narrative, the obstacle reveals the true purpose behind the desire. I want to say that again. In a narrative, when we encounter the obstacle, we find a deeper meaning behind that desire because we see why it matters. Let me give you a couple quick examples. You can see I'm embedded in Disney movies right now. I want to say because of my children, but let's be honest, I'd be watching them anyway. Mulan wants to be a soldier. She can't because she's a girl. She does it because saving her father is worth it, and she continues to serve as a soldier even when she's found out to save her country. The desire is deepened. It's clarified. It's not just her desire. It's not just then saving her father. It's now saving the entire country that she's willing to risk it. Simba wants to be king. You know Simba?
Yep,
Yeah, okay, Simba. Simba wants to be king.
Familiar.
He's too arrogant because he just can't wait to be king. He gets over himself to help others when he realizes he cares about those who are suffering. All of a sudden, that desire to be king, the real purpose is clarified when he encounters the obstacle, and we see, no, he actually wants to do it to help those around him. Maximus wants to be free. Maximus, like, of gladiator lore, just to be clear, in case if you didn't grasp that, is thrust into leadership and then framed. He rises as a leader anyway, serving as a gladiator to fulfill the wishes of the emperor in order to help him and others be free. Now, that may seem like a lot right there. My point in sharing all those examples is that you would see that the obstacle is important. If there is no obstacle, there isn't a narrative. If there is no desire of the character, they won't ever overcome that obstacle. So, like, these are the things that matter most as we look at it. So here is the large form thing as it applies to leadership, because I don't know, some of you may think of this like, okay, great, I'll write some short stories, I'll do this. Like that's great, but this is a leadership principle. That's why, like, this whole leading hope thing is about, okay? When it comes to your organization, whatever it is you lead, and I want to throw family in here as well, okay? You should not be thinking in terms of goals. You should be thinking in terms of narrative. People can learn from a point, can accomplish a goal, but can find themselves within a story. And so when you switch your goals from simply, we want to accomplish this, and you embed it with desire, obstacle, and true desire that comes from that obstacle, what you're doing is you're now telling a story that people can remember a lot easier.
Yeah.
Okay? Because we forget goals. If it's a narrative, we can remember a lot easier. We can find ourselves in it, and we are compelled by it in terms of what's taking place. So your role as a leader is to find and tell the better story that is taking place. Key elements of that. Your role as a leader is to find. You must be aware of the stories. We are not great at creating context for our lives in terms of a story structure. So you have to find it. Second thing is you have to tell it. I don't just mean the good things that are taking place. Yes, you must tell the good things that are taking place, but you must tell the story of what you are doing in a way that is compelling. And you must make sure this story is better than the other stories that people would live into and naturally be a part of. We have a tendency as human beings to go from activity to activity to activity without any context of why this matters, the difference that it's making, what is going to keep us from success, and why success is so incredibly important. So leaders must become storytellers, and we become storytellers when we think narrative. Last point, then we're going to have some fun with this. And that is this. Sometimes people ask me as it comes to like messages on Sundays or things like that, they'll say, how do you like do so much and you almost never look at your notes? How do you do this? And you never, and the point is memorization is a piece of cake when you're thinking in terms of story.
Yeah.
Like it is not complicated. We have hosts that serve to kind of give next steps, welcome people, things like that. And sometimes people are like, oh, what do I do? What do I go here? And I go, imagine you're a first-time guest. What story are you going through?
Yeah.
Well, first you need to be welcomed, and then you go here, and then we give some future pieces. So we'll say, hey, if you're a first-time guest, now pull out your camera phone, look at this QR code, you'll sign up, you'll go to the Orange Room. Orange Room is where this takes place. It's to help you get connected in the church. This is what we desire for you in the future things. It's a narrative. It's a story. It's a logical, chronological flow in someone's life. Yep. So memorization is easier when we think of info as a story. V.
Yeah. Something that's just I thought of, and we're going to bring in someone in just a couple seconds here. But we got the pleasure of contacting several people over the last week who were baptized.
Yeah,
trying to actually get their story and understand what happened. And here's something that I think it's taken into context. Almost every person I talked to said that they felt like you were speaking directly to them, and you weren't looking at notes. So what were you doing?
Well,
you were telling.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. So they felt like they were the story part of on the stage as you spoke to them.
And could I give you what I did in that moment? Is I knew the stories of the resistance that other people had to taking a step of faith.
Yes.
And I just inserted the information of their stories without a name.
Yes.
And so to go like, yeah, when I told someone else's story without all the details, they could find themselves in it.
That was awesome. So right now we're going to bring in our favorite guy, Matt Scruggs. Come on in, Matt.
Come on, Matt.
We'll bring him in
If
here.
you're watching live online or on YouTube later, this is going to look ridiculous. We're going to be all crowded.
Yeah.
We are bringing Matt in because Matt is, first off, phenomenal at this. Matt, you're so tall.
I know. This will never happen again because I'm so short.
And we want to make sure that this content that we're going through kind of has some handles. You can understand what to do with it. So, Matt, you want me to explain? You want to tell them what we're going to do?
Oh, you can explain it.
So what we're going to do is we're going to go through some examples of lifeless, narrativeless information. And just to go, hey, this is what we got. And now how do we turn it into a story? How do we make it more compelling? It's going to be a little longer, and we want you to see that this is, while there's some basic principles to this, it is far more art than science. You can't just go, oh, now this is the perfect story in light of that. But hopefully to help you see how this functions on a daily basis to help you think narrative. So, Matt, what do you want to jump into?
So one of the things that we have here at Be Hope is the Hope Unleashed kind of class that we do. And we talk about it every week, and we have a statement. So, VJ, can you actually give us you speak it very well every single week on the online, just to describe it. Can you just do that real quick? Describe just off the top of your head what it is.
Hope Unleashed is an opportunity that is essential to every person who wants to claim their identity, to clarify their purpose, and restore passion back into their life. It's 3 weeks, and it's absolutely fantastic. And it's not so that you get connected to the church. It's so that you get connected to your calling.
Oh, that was good.
So that was very good.
That's good.
Very good. But if you take it a little bit deeper, you'd be able to say the narrative of we spend our lives trying to figure out who we are.
Yeah.
That we spend this time and we rack our brain all the time. And then we don't know what our purpose is in life. And then when we understand what we're supposed to do for the rest of our lives, we just keep going over and over again. But what if we understand that from we get this identity from God? So over the course of 3 weeks, we're going to look at what this looks like for your life, to know that when you know you are built and created by God, what that means for the rest of your life, that can unleash so many things for you. So, just taking it to understanding that it's a personal thing, not details, not just little things of what people don't understand until they get into the class or get into the discussion. It's what they understand now.
And all of those are far more significant than we have a class. It's for people who haven't gone through it and everyone, and it meets the first 3 weeks, and we want you to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And another thing that we did just this past couple weeks ago was Hope Week, where we do this whole week where we do community projects throughout the community, and we drum up a lot of activity trying to get people to get involved in it. And so Hope Week is a week where we can go out and go into the community, and it's going to be August 1st through the 7th. Sign up here, and it's going to be awesome. Just a simple blurb of what you would nimbly put on a post or something like that. But if we put in the narrative of saying that we believe the church or the community is better because the church is in it, and the things that we can do as the church, not within these four walls that we have here, but out in our communities, not only can instill something new within our community, but new within us, and propel us forward into what God has already called us to do. So sign up and be a part of that. There's just little things that we can do. Yeah.
So let me say it. Ask this fun game for both of you. Okay. Ready? When your kids go to school, the most common statement is, "Have a good day at school." And they're walking into an entire day of all the different things with no context other than "have a good day," which is basically try to be happy within that. How can you shift that to now you're sending your child off with a story. Either one of you, both of you, whatever. You can talking to the mic at the same time. Make it work.
Yeah.
I'm keeping my mic. Thank you very much.
Little duet.
Yeah.
All right, what you got? Shift the story.
Shift the story instead of having just a good day is I actually do this with my oldest son as he's growing up.
Of course you do.
Just that he doesn't go and behave, but he goes and he's a leader. Because one of the things I know about him is he's a follower. So for him to lead in this states of go find someone to help today, be some hope to someone in a time of need, be that leader today. And so give him that mission of the things that we know he needs to work on or that we as a family are working on, just as that charge in the beginning
That's
of
good.
the day.
So what are the, just give like real quick this, Oliver gets on the bus or gets dropped off. What is the exact words you give to him?
Well, we talk about it beforehand, but as he gets up at the bus, he'll be like, go be a leader today or go help someone today. But, those are parts of
That doesn't have to be, so you go be a leader today. All of a sudden you have protagonist, you, desire to lead, obstacle, all the things that will make you a follower, like go be a leader. You have 4 words and you actually have a story within that.
Yeah.
V, how about you?
So we have our family has a group text, and it not every day, but almost every day. I remember switching this language just not too long ago, and I try not to make the mistake as much as possible. It was have a good day, I love you, or we love you from the parents. We started switching that because we wanted them to start from love.
Oh, that's
and
good.
So we moved it, we love you, and because of that, today can this. And so we switched that language to let them know who they were first before they had to figure out what they had to do.
That's
so
good.
that was really helpful for us.
I like it.
This is quickly turning into a parenting podcast.
Well, I mean,
They usually do.
here's the reality is the think narrative piece must be there in every aspect of our lives because we don't do a great job of understanding our context or our story, and we do terrible jobs of telling it. So it's just not there.
Yeah, that's good. What else you got for us?
Matt, anything else you want to jump into on examples, things like that?
Not exactly. It's just the piece of, like you've been saying, just understanding that it's not just details that give the strength. It's when people get to see themselves in the story of whatever that is within your family, within your coworkers, whatever that is, that it pushes things where they need to go much better because there's passion behind it. There's understanding behind it.
I do have I have a question for you, Matt, because you do this so well. When you are sitting one-on-one in a room with someone and you're asking questions, what is the goal? If you win in that situation, meaning the capturing of the information of which you need to tell the story, not a good story, the better story, as Kevin's laid out. What are the things that you're looking for in that moment to make sure you're capturing the better story?
I think the better story is always landing in the depth of what's underlying everything that they're saying, or the piece that is the why did you do that, or why did you come to that conclusion? Because a lot of times we don't know that, but as they're speaking it, they can live that out. So it's a lot of understanding what the purpose of that. So we do a lot of stories that center in how God has transformed someone's life, and so being able to drill down even further what that means for their life, and just to say, okay, how has God done that? And active listening is the biggest thing that you have to have on the skill. It's a learned skill set. If you're not listening at all and looking for those little tidbits of things that can be, talk more about that, then that's a piece. So learning active listening in those instances is huge.
That's good. Cool. Thank you, Matt,
Thanks,
for
Matt.
joining us.
Now, before you leave, just so everybody knows, we actually need Matt to leave. Otherwise, this will never end. He actually is controlling everything.
The video
behind
will
the
go
scenes.
forever.
It will just be the 24-hour podcast. So, Matt, appreciate it, buddy.
So, our biggest hope for today is we're entering into this whole thing on story and everything else is this sense. We find ourselves and we are able to commit ourselves to something much bigger when it is framed within the context of a story. Information is easier to grasp, it's easier to remember, and it is more compelling. And so what you need to begin doing as a leader is you need to begin thinking in terms of the narrative. You cannot give announcements, next steps. You cannot do any leading as if you are giving a PowerPoint presentation with bullet points on there, because that is not compelling. Tell stories, recreate the information that you have into the structure of a story. Think of your own life in terms of the context that you are in now, what matters most to you, and the obstacles that are going to keep you from that. And my guess is that if you would simply reframe your present struggle within the context of a story, you'd be far more motivated to overcome the obstacles, because you said Sally got tired of helping her kids with homework, and so she played on Facebook instead. You would go, I don't want that to be my story. I don't want that to be my story. Nope. I want it to be Sally learned. I'll put myself in there. Sorry, I'll take Sally out. I'll put Kevin in there. Kevin didn't want to help his kids with homework because he couldn't remember those principles of math, because he doesn't use his math much as a pastor. Yeah. And so he went and read a book or did something else instead. I go, no, I don't want that to be my story. I want it to be Kevin sat down with his kids every night, learned with them, helped them overcome their struggles so they could learn not just that they are smart enough, but they have perseverance that can go through it so that they would succeed in the long run. I want that story. If I know that's the story, I'm far more likely to help my kids with their stinking math as we enter back into school.
That's good, man. I think that's all that we have time for today. Is that the wrap up there?
That's it.
That's it, man. Well, I love the point that you made. People can learn from a point. People can learn from the here's 3 steps to whatever.
Yeah.
But people find themselves in a story.
Yep.
And that is where the power lies.
That's
good. Great. All right, episode 89, Think Narrative. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you're new to the podcast or haven't yet subscribed, it'd mean the world to us if you would do that right now. Also, post about it, rate, and review. Won't believe how that helps get this podcast in the hands of so many more leaders and now storytellers like you. And we love hearing your stories of how the podcast is working in your life and business. If you have a story, visit leadinghope.online and send that to us. We'd love to hear from you. And remember, everyone has 20 minutes to learn to become a better leader. Make it count.